Howdy, folks. I'm Jeff Gonzalez, former Navy SEAL, president of Trident Concept, and host of the Bulletproof Workshop, powered by AR15.com, where we discuss knowledge, skills, and ability to help bulletproof your everyday performance in whatever your field or passion. Welcome to Podcast 013. My next guest has been in the firearms business for almost as long as I've been alive. GT Distributors now has 5 stores in 4 different states. Carrying over 500 brands, they have established themselves as the go-to for local law enforcement and private citizens. Active in the community, they are huge supporters of law enforcement, often being involved in several charitable events. He and his team at GT Distributors have been a constant through the ups and downs of the firearms industry over the last several decades. He's a businessman, father, hunter, board member, merchandise stocker to company president. Please welcome to the show, Jim Orr. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I was trying to figure out how long we've known each other, but it's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It has. Probably pushing 15, 16
Probably.
years. Yeah.
I know. It's been a long time. Just look at the gray hairs, I don't remember them there. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And what we'll do is we'll take a short break to talk about our sponsors real quick. Folks, this show is sponsored by 1776 Insurance. We're talking about comprehensive firearms collection coverage. That also includes your accessories as well as knives. If you've got questions or you want to learn more, please visit 1776insurance.com. So I like to start from the beginning, in a sense. And in your case, this is going to be really interesting because you really did get your start in the business literally in the back of the building of sorts. So
yes,
talk us, where did you grow up and how did you get involved in the family business?
Well, grew up in a little small town outside Chattanooga, Tennessee called Rossville, Georgia. It's literally on the state line.
I love that.
And, that's kind of where the GT comes from. It's not Georgia, Texas. It's Georgia, Tennessee.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now we say it's Georgia, Texas.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now we can. Okay, good enough. That's an interesting bit of history then.
Yeah.
So literally part of the building is your building is over the state line.
Our current building, is in Georgia and Tennessee. So we have a FFL in both states.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's challenging.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So grew up there, Georgia, Tennessee. And?
Okay. Well, my dad had always been in the edges of the gun business. He was a Smith & Wesson collector. He was one of the original members of the Smith & Wesson Collectors Association.
Wow.
And so he was real good friends with Roy Jinks. If you're into Smith & Wessons, he's the godfather.
Yes.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
And they were very close friends. And Roy calls my dad up one day and says, hey, a little inside information. They're looking for a new distributor in Georgia and East Tennessee. He said, you ought to, come up here and talk to someone about that. And back in the day, Smith & Wesson was the be-all, do-all, end-all of law enforcement. From night vision, breathalyzer is a Smith & Wesson name.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
What time period would this be?
This would have been the late 60s to early 70s. My dad, we started in 72. So this is our 50th year this year.
Oh, my God.
So he got that. We expanded. We were doing it the way they wanted it done and started picking up additional lines. We were actually a Colt distributor at one time out of the basement of our house. Yeah.
Interesting.
Before we got the brick and mortar
I gotcha.
up and running.
Gotcha.
But yeah. So, he got in kind of through the back door that way.
Wow.
And GT as a company grew and has steadily grown ever since then.
For sure.
Yeah. And I started, so we started 72. I was, the TV was my babysitter in the warehouse. I'd come home after school, watch TV, watched a lot of Three Stooges and whatever.
Oh my God.
And then he said, what are you doing? Hey, sweep the floor over there. Hey, break down boxes. So I started getting my first paycheck, I believe, whenever it was legal. I guess 14.
Oh, we're going to say 14 if it was legal.
14.
Yeah. Whatever the legal age is, disclaimer.
Yeah. So, that was where I worked every summer. Went on business trips with him. Started going to the IACP when I was 16, International Chief Show. Yeah.
Some people may not know what that is, so I'm glad you gave them the definition.
Early SHOT Show. I think I went to one of the first one or two. The infamous Atlanta snow-in, where it froze everybody into the SHOT Show for an extra 4 days. So every bar in Atlanta was totally out of booze.
No way.
Yes.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Out of booze. Oh, that's poor logistics on your part.
Yeah. Drinking the cream de menthe. And
that's terrible. You're getting pretty hard up when you're going down that road.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So that is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Jeez. What was it like back then? I mean,
it was a lot more mom and pop type businesses out there. There was a lot of combo people in the uniform trade that had the gun side too. There were people that were just more or less in the gun side that did the law enforcement thing as a side gig.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of characters in the business back then. Very aggressive entrepreneurs. For the most part.
What a time to be in that industry. Just amazing. Because, so much, what people don't understand is like where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
Our culture, not our culture, but our community, our industry,
mm-hmm.
where it comes from. And some of the names and some of the characters that you're referencing, have gone by in memory of sorts. And so, a lot of people have missed out on some of that. I can remember, I can just remember people talking about one of my favorite people to talk to about the old school business was Hans Vang from Vang Comp.
Mm-hmm.
He would just be like throwing everybody out there, like, oh, there's this guy who did this and this guy who did this, and you're learning about our community from the old school OG time period. So
mm-hmm.
that just must have been so cool to be around it back then. Who stood out to you the most as the character?
Oh. There were so many. The guy that blew up Galls.
Blew up Galls.
Not blew it up.
Oh,
he was
okay.
the guy that he took it from.
Okay, there you go.
We actually started out doing a catalog jointly with them.
No kidding.
That was printed in the prison, in the Kentucky prison. And then he kicked my dad to the curb because my dad and him could never agree on the prices because it was just the cover that was different and the prices were all the same inside. So he got Galls to a point where it was $250 million and sold it to Aramark.
Ooh, wow. Aramark is like the uniform people.
Yeah.
Holy cow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he was definitely a force of nature. I have a couple of people that work for me now that worked with him in the early days. They said you could tell how the day was going on how many Bloody Mary cups he had stacked. If he had one, he was just on his first one, and if he would, styrofoam cups would build up. And
oh my God!
You knew if he was on his fourth one, he's going to be in a good mood, but don't piss him off
because there is no filter whatsoever.
None.
God, that's back.
He was known if you didn't refer to the team. If you said, I did this or whatever, he would throw in a meeting. He would pick up something and throw it at you.
Wow.
Yeah. Immediately, he said, there is no I in team.
I love that.
He would literally just pick up a whatever on the table that was within arm's reach and chunk it at him.
But in all honesty, it's that type of, and I'll go so far as to say leadership, that is probably what helped him build that empire of sorts, is making it about the team and not an individual and bringing the collective together. And, we talk about that on a lot of other podcasts, the importance of team and whatnot. And you built your team, and we'll get to that in just a second. But back in the day, that's good to hear that was the kind of culture that was the start, if you will, that it kind of started from there.
Yeah, but it was pretty rare. Most of what we saw was, real old school, my way or the highway.
For sure.
It was very territorial. You don't come into my backyard, I won't come into yours kind of dealings. And, we had what we termed good competitors and bad competitors. And that was, like I said, interesting time meeting at Smith & Wesson distributor meetings with all these people, from all over the country, going to the SHOT Show and going to various, cocktail parties and such, and just, rubbing elbows with the industry leaders and distributors from all over the country.
Well, one thing I can say is that it helped being in on what we could say the ground floor of our modernized community, if you will, seeing the inner workings and how things kind of really work. Like you said, the cocktail parties, the side meetings, the rubbing elbows with people to kind of help get established and develop relationships. That as a distributor, that's what it's about. It's about having relationships with your brands so that you can then bring the brands to the customers.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one of the interesting things that I don't know. I'm sure it still happens these days, but it probably doesn't have that same kind of historical flair that it once had.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's a little bit different these days.
Oh yeah, it is. But I still have competitors, but friendly competitors that I can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, this happened.
Yeah,
what would you do?"
Nice.
That's
important though. That's a hard thing. And we'll get to this in just a little bit, but we might as well touch on some of that stuff. Like the challenges, so you started off sweeping the floor, you worked your way up. Like how was that ascension? What was transpiring in your mind as you saw this ascension begin?
Well, I kind of saw all the facets of the business. I wanted to, of course, assume the business at some point.
Sure.
And you can only do that by learning, most of the business.
Sure.
Be it from the accounting, the shipping, retail, the bid.
The bidding process. Yeah.
The bidding process and understanding that was, what I grew up doing. I was in the summer. I was on the telephone. I was taking the calls from the outside customers.
Interesting.
And so, dealing one-on-one with law enforcement customers from South Georgia to Tennessee to Alabama, wherever, and being able to know enough about the product to lead them in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
That was very important for me to go to some of the Smith & Wesson training, and we did that on the vehicle equipment side. With,
Interesting.
The same thing.
Yeah.
And learning, because, we do the gamut. We do
absolutely
red and blue lights, uniforms, fingerprint supplies.
And the only thing you don't do is sell cars.
Yeah, we don't sell cars, laptops, or radios. That's it.
That's a lot still that you offer.
Right.
So basically, one could say that you have held every position within your organization at some point.
Yeah, except some of the more advanced, either accounting or whatever. Yeah.
But within your field of expertise, of sorts.
Yeah.
Because at what point in your, at what point in your experience did you decide that you wanted to take the helm, or that you were interested in taking the helm? Was that young, or did it come later?
Well, yeah, it was probably when I was in college. I still was undecided at that point. Did a lot of course, I got a business degree and learned more about that side and realized, hey, this is something that I would like to do.
Nice.
Both in the marketing side, was really strong on the marketing side of the business. We had never done a catalog until I taught my dad into doing that. Got on the web, the whole deal.
Oh, wow.
So, and, I leveraged a lot of those relationships. I've spent weeks at some of my competitors.
Yeah.
And learned, before we got in the catalog business, here's what it entails, and having people in the industry that were, not afraid to let you peek behind the curtains.
Yeah.
And because we were, friends on another level.
Yeah.
We hunted together.
Yes.
We went to various trade organizations together.
Yeah.
Set a lot of bars together.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, that's when I really realized it. I think the first SHOT Show I went to was when I was in college.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that is, again, you kind of saw what I find so incredibly valuable is like the undercover boss.
Mm-hmm.
You've been all those positions. You have, the ones that were relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So you can really help guide the mission of sorts, because you can kind of bring all facets of the organization into unison because you've worked them. I'm sure there's nuances here and there, but nonetheless, being able to bring them all together. When you decided to take over, was it at that point that you guys decided to branch to other locations?
Yes, it was not long after that. We had actually had a location in Atlanta and one in Memphis that we ended up closing both of those down. The Memphis one because the market kind of deteriorated there, and the Atlanta one because the dirt became worth more than the business,
building.
The business was.
Wow.
They had a MARTA station opened up across the street, so it blew the whole area up.
Oh my goodness.
So, and then one day my dad calls me in the office and says, "Where do you want to live, California or Texas?" That was the choice.
Those were your choices?
There was not there was A and B, there was no C, there was no stay here.
You're out, buddy. Pack your bags.
That's kind of the dad my dad was. It was like, okay, same thing on Duffield. Okay, you've never done this before. Okay, those are done. Shoot them. I'm going over here. You're
Pretty
on your
easy.
own.
Oh my God. So calls you in the office, gives you a option A, option B. Obviously, you chose Texas. Option B. Was that forward thinking on your part, because California is a huge market. I mean, it's
yes and no.
And back then in that time period too, I would imagine it was more friendlier towards our industry.
Yeah, it was. And again, it was a Smith & Wesson thing. They were not happy with their distribution in those two states. They reached out to people they knew that they could trust to do it.
Right.
And
that's a big honor.
Yeah, and that was the choices. I had one of my dad's really good friends was the Winchester rep in Texas and Louisiana, and he offered to travel with me for a couple of weeks, and we went and did that. Called on Dallas PD, Fort Worth PD, DPS, all the major agencies with a guy who'd been there, done that.
They knew his name. They knew his face.
Oh yeah. He was.
That's nice.
Yeah. So we got a lot of traction off that. We were already doing business in Texas before we even opened a physical location here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you picked Texas. You moved to Austin. What were the challenges back then of moving to a completely other state?
Well, I was getting married at the same time, so just to add a little bit more.
Why not? Why not?
So yeah, it was. Me and my wife moved to Texas with no support mechanism. My dad ended up buying a house out here. But, and my mom would travel out some, but we were just kind of on our own and had to make our own way at that point.
You were kind of like Columbus, the explorer.
Right. And we picked Austin because there was no direct competition in town.
Makes sense.
Before fax machines, which is way before email.
Holy cow.
To deliver a bid, you had to mail the bid. Okay.
Wow.
And with our location in Austin, on a state bid, we could change prices at the last minute, get in the car.
Drop it in
the envelope and drop it off and wait for the bid opening,
wow.
And actually write down the results.
Wow.
So, that was why we chose Austin. All the state agencies are located
They
here.
are.
Except for Texas Department of Corrections. And they have outposts here, but their headquarters, of course, in Huntsville.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, they're the only one.
Interesting. So the challenge, aside from bringing your new bride here and learning the ropes, you picked Austin because of the business agility, being able to be agile. And that makes a lot of sense because, again, the reason why I was excited to have you on was because you have so much knowledge of the industry and being through it for as long as you have, and people realizing how things were done back then, and why it's important now is because we've kind of gotten away from that. I think that social atmosphere. So many things are done now remotely or through emails and text messages, and back then it was more of a face-to-face handshake kind of scenario where deals were done that way, and major deals, big deals were done that way. I know that there's obviously etiquette and protocol to follow these days, and obviously legal issues, but I kind of miss that. I miss that kind of scenario. So business agility is a very big thing, and being able to adapt quickly, and like you were saying, being able to have that bid changed and still get it in time made a huge difference compared to folks that were like in Dallas or even as close as San Antonio. You were just beating them through the Pony Express.
Right. And Austin being in the center of the state, we could jump in a car, be in Dallas in 3 hours, Fort Worth 3 hours.
It is nice.
Yeah. So, really that was the main focus on why we were in Austin. Austin was a growing town then. It was already pretty evident.
About what time period was that?
That would have been 85.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 85, it really started blowing up.
That was about the time that I was in high school. And I can remember coming up here on the weekends and hanging out and hitting 6th Street back then, even before, I was still in high school. But, of course, we figured out ways to get into the bars and do all sorts of stuff. And, this was the place to be. Austin was a place to come. It was a fun town. It hadn't been, whether it's good or bad, it hadn't really begun the change that we see it now.
Right.
And man, I loved coming up here back then. Like I grew up in San Antonio, so it was like San Antonio was a wonderful town. I love that town, my hometown. But we traveled often to get out of that town to go to do places, and the number one place we'd come to was Austin.
Yeah.
So all right, so you put up shop in '85 here in Austin, and you start really kind of digging your heels in here. Did you? Was there ever a point where you were starting to question, was this the right state? Did I make the right decision?
No, not really. My dad had a goal that said, I want you to hit this much in the first year, and we hit it in about 8 months.
Wow.
So we validated, this was the right place to be.
Nice.
We developed really good relationships with a lot of the local agencies.
For sure.
And tried to be, and it's what I've taught a lot of my internal salespeople and external, be the problem solver.
God,
you go in to a department and, I don't ask, what are you looking at buying? What are your pain points right now?
Yes.
What do you buy that causes you the most grief? And let's try to work on, how to work around that.
I can remember one of the best quotes that I ever got as a young frogman was, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. And that kind of reminds me of that. He's like, you get in there and you become kind of like, I wouldn't say like a saving grace, but you come in with a different mindset, and you come in with the with a true, I guess, drive to try to help. And like the pressure points that you talk about are huge, because if you can fix one of those pressure points, it's like you're kind of in after that.
Oh yeah, we did that numerous with the state purchasing guy. I mean, we became really good friends, which is probably a problem now.
For sure.
But back then he would say, hey, look at these specs for me. I mean, are these good?
Yeah.
And especially on body armor or something like that. I said, yeah, it looks like they're favoring one particular vendor.
Interesting.
And he, and I had to be honest with him, or he'd never trust me to make the phone call. I got him to delay a bid one time just because it was on Colt rifles for TDC or somebody, and we couldn't get a price from Colt because EWA was going on over in Europe. Everybody was over there that could make the price.
And what is EWA?
It's the European SHOT Show.
Yeah.
And so they were all over there. I said, hey, I can't get the price, because it had a lot of custom work on the gun.
Interesting.
And he said, just postpone the bid for, what do you think, another 2 weeks? I said, yeah, that'll work.
Everybody will be back by then.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you proof of concept for a good choice to move here was pretty quick. 8 months is pretty nice. I mean, like 3/4 of the time that you were allotted and you made your bids on, or you made your quotes there. That's pretty awesome. What was the drive to move to other states?
Well, as we kind of locked a lot of, not locked up Texas, but we had our outside reps covering the whole state. Then we started looking for opportunities, in adjoining states. Also, at the same time, we're in Georgia and Tennessee. We want to expand to Alabama.
Nice.
Or, and had to crack that nut. Oklahoma, the same way. That was part of our real first expansion. We picked up Glock in Oklahoma.
No way.
Yeah, and so later on, where our real expansion started was when Glock had a problem with one of their distributors. It was the one where people went to jail. And,
I remember this.
Yeah. Well, they fired the company that did it, and now it's like crap. We just fired our biggest law enforcement distributor in the nation. Oh, man. We just fired our probably top 5. They were top 5 commercial.
Wow.
They actually flew everybody to Smyrna, and like, what are we going to do?
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
What are we going to do? And luckily, my rep, John Keeping, and his boss raised their hand and says, I think we got somebody that can do it. Can we talk to them? And, and they called me up, and John's deceased now, one of our best reps ever.
Oh, nice.
And he calls me up, and John had 2 voices, serious John and joking John. Well, this serious John calls up.
Uh-oh.
And you got to get the timing on this. This is like the very end of December. I just turned 50. Okay. So I'd been cut off as a 511 dealer by Dan Costa himself.
No way.
Over the phone. No, just they're screwing with me. Everybody was calling up, trying to pranking me for my 50th birthday.
Oh, you're kidding.
So Dan Costa fires
I
us.
love Dan. Oh,
Dan
my
Costa,
God.
He's a great guy.
I love Dan.
I've gone to his lodge up in Montana.
Oh, it's so beautiful up there. We could
yeah.
talk about that too. Absolutely.
But yeah, and so John calls me up and says, Jim, we have terminated, I guess I can use their name now since they're not business, OMB. And I'm like, John,
I'm not in the mood.
I'm not in the mood, man. You're like number 4. This is not even funny now. And he goes, no, I'm serious. And I'm going, I don't believe you. And I hung up on him.
You hung up on the biggest deal of potentially the biggest deal.
He calls me back. He says, Jim, I promise this is not a drill. And it was great. I remember I walked right after that. I walked in. I had to go to the Dallas store. It's when we were just standing it up. And our Safariland rep at the time, I said, was in there. He's now a regional manager. I said, Jerry, you don't believe this. And I told him, he's like, there's no way. And I said, yep. But anyway, so they fired them. My guys said, hey, I think we got somebody that can jump on this.
Yeah.
And so they called me up and said, hey, can you get boots on the ground in Kansas and Missouri and Nebraska? can you get boots on the ground the next 2 months?
Ooh, wow.
So we made a push, got boots on the ground. Then, like, of course, I said this was late December. SHOT Show rolls around just a couple of weeks later. I'm in the Glock booth, and it's okay. We're good on. I was, of course, Texas, Oklahoma. We had Georgia already, and then they gave us Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri.
Wow.
And so in the meeting they go, "What do you think about? Could you handle Florida and Alabama also?"
Why not?
Yeah. Why not? Can you get boots on the ground in Florida?
Holy cow!
So we were getting guys hired and on the road, and so we went from 2 states to 8 or 9, like in 2 or 3 months.
Oh my God! And it was was it because of Glock, or was it?
It was to fill the vacuum. We're one of the few that have dedicated outside salesmen, in the field. Okay, and then we have, for each one of those dedicated outside salesmen, we have a managed account rep that is their inside counterpart.
Got it.
So they liked that model.
It's a nice model.
Getting the bids done. We were out there knocking on doors.
Yeah.
We were at the same time. The Glock relationship's a lot like the CCI Federal. It's changed names so many times. Vista Outdoors.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, jeez.
The same thing there. That's kind of a handshake deal.
Yeah.
Where we kind of live and die by them.
Yeah.
And same thing with Glock. We kind of live and die by Glock.
Yeah. But that's a good bed to be in, though.
Right.
I mean, I know that they're, because what I witnessed when I got into the private sector after the military, that was the kind of like the waning part for Smith & Wesson as being the dominant law enforcement firearm of choice. Glock was starting their run, their push, and it was right about that time period that you started to see the playing field equalize, because it was so Smith & Wesson. It was everything with Smith & Wesson, and all of a sudden now you're starting to see it's like equal between Glock and Smith & Wesson, and then eventually Glock overtook them, and I mean, for all practical purposes, they really pushed them out the window. They made them very happy second, very happy second to be in that role. So being involved with Glock in that sense is pretty nice to see that during that explosion, if you will. And we hear all the stories. I read that one kind of like inside book on Glock's history, and it was interesting to see. I wouldn't necessarily call them guerrilla tactics. I would just say that's smart. Like that, like you were saying, pressure point. How do I get rid of these guns to get new guns? What do I do to do that? Well, we'll buy them from you. We don't care what make and model they are. We'll just take them from you and bada bing, bada bang. So they created a great sales pitch by hitting that pressure point and making that problem go away. I thought that was really good. Quick word from our sponsor. We've been working with the folks at 1776 for comprehensive insurance of our firearms collections, and I'm really happy with how things are going so far. And one of my concerns is with the amount of commuting that I do with my firearms collection. What happens should my vehicle be broken into or stolen with my firearms? And there's reason to have this concern because there's 800,000 vehicles stolen per year in America. So it's not, it's a little bit more common than we might think. What I mentioned earlier is that they have a comprehensive insurance plan, which is that they will cover your firearms stolen out of your vehicle, or should your vehicle be stolen, cover the firearms that were in the vehicle. So that's pretty reassuring in a sense. So I've mentioned this before, but the process to apply is pretty easy. Approval is pretty quick. They do not require you provide a itemization or serialized numbers. There's no appraisal or schedules that you have to provide. So really all you want to do is just make sure you have proof of ownership, and that's it. So if you want to learn more about the folks from 1776 and insuring your firearms collection, visit 1776insurance.com. All right, so you really have branched out. You're in, your stake and claim and all these other areas. What was the biggest challenge like that? I mean, you're almost kind of like outrunning your headlights at a certain point.
Well, it was trying not to outrun the headlights was the biggest problem. We've gotten into several recently, the uniform business, where we had to say, no, we can't handle you.
No way.
We can't. We're growing. We're going to try to get to where we can handle you. But right now, we were having to walk away from deals because the infrastructure is so. If you think it's big on the equipment side, the uniform side is, you got to have seamstress or tailor shops, embroidery, heat press.
Oh, my God.
All that stuff, because you're basically now manufacturing stuff.
Holy cow.
Because it comes in unhemmed,
you got to do everything. Take the measurements.
Yeah.
Interesting. Was that so like getting into the uniform business, was that, was that a good move or was that a necessary move?
Well, I think it was necessary to, once we started getting, a lot bigger, we started getting that question, how, you're a lot in guns and ammo, if that industry is challenged, what are you going to do?
Now we're getting to where I want to be. It's like what happens when, you got to live through the assault weapons ban. You got to live through shortages of ammo, logistics on this.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically create another industry for yourself that kind of helps you
smooth it out.
Make those gaps, fill those gaps.
Because guns, they buy guns once we hope every 5 years. It's what we try to preach.
Nice.
And, body armors every 5 years, basically.
Yeah.
So you've got these peaks and valleys, and sometimes all the peaks hit at the same time, and the valleys hit all at the same time. So you need something to smooth it.
Yeah.
And one thing that cops, firemen both go through is uniforms, because they're rough on them.
Yeah, they are.
And
it's a rough job.
You go to the ground one time in a fight, you probably got a new shirt and new pants that you're going to have to get.
Nice.
Because every time you go to the ground, you're going to tear them up.
Something's getting messed up.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's smart. That's good strategy. That was good strategy, because you're right. Once you're in bed in that sense, that's a turnkey operation of sorts. Once you have all the logistics laid out, I understand that there's a lot that goes into the logistics, but once you have them laid out, it's pretty turnkey. And then, of course, like you were saying, you have to push away from the table at a certain point just because you become, I think it's smart for businesses to know their capabilities and know their limitations, and being able to kind of work within that. Even if it's like 10% over, you're still kind of like, how far you can take it before shit starts breaking.
Yeah, well, we watched that happen twice, once in the late 80s and again in the 90s with two big competitors that overgrew.
Yes.
Grew too fast. And one had a huge, deep pocket, and it was Skaggs.
I remember them.
Skaggs Supermarket family. And they bought up a ton of places, but they didn't have people at the top that understood the business.
Yep.
So guys were just coming in, oh, hey, I'm your Code 3 guy. You need all these light bars in stock. And they just, okay. $250,000 order, no problem. And
half of it's still sitting in the warehouse.
Yeah, when I got the list from them, I was going, you got these light bars that are red and blue, but the red's on the driver, the blue's on the passenger, and then they sold you an equal amount in a reverse. The lenses come off, right? They sold them every color package. Yeah, so.
I'm sorry.
And then we had another competitor that bought out a chain of uniform companies in Texas and went from one location to 6.
Wow.
Overnight, and did not have the management to run the deal.
It's one thing to be forward thinking and have a future vision in mind, but an idea is kind of worthless without a good solid plan.
Right.
Without the plan, it's just an idea. And I say that to my kids all the time. Your idea is great. I love it. But what's the plan to make it happen?
Right.
Tough.
And it's not just the plan. It's understanding the financial implications of the plan and having a good relationship with your financial institution.
Yeah.
And we have a report we send every year to our bank. Here's where we're going. It's the same report we put together for our Esop valuation team.
Nice.
That's our employee stock ownership program,
which is brilliant, by the way.
Yeah. So as we got into that part, we even learned more about ourselves because we're audited a full third-party audit every year.
Ooh.
Which is, expensive and brutal, but, there are benefits to being an ESOP.
Well, so I want to talk about that real quick. So for people that don't know that means that you own a percentage of the business and the employees own a percentage of the business.
Mm-hmm.
In your from a business point of view, how has that been effective? Has that been helpful? Has that been the carrot at the end of the stick for some folks?
It has. It's not really for the younger employees or the people with shorter tenure, because you know how it is nowadays.
Totally.
Nobody works.
Yeah.
You work 3 years in the same job, you're doing something wrong.
Oh wow, yeah.
So, but our upper management, middle management get it.
Nice.
Okay, so it is something, they still may leave, but it's got to be for a lot bigger reason.
Absolutely.
Because it's a meaningful retirement at the end of the day if you can
stay.
I mean, it's a big number.
I think the most important thing, and we learned this as a result of the pandemic, is keeping the people that you have on staff versus trying to hire new ones, train them up, and deal with the constant revolving door of people coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
It is much better or much easier to keep people than it is to constantly train people.
That is correct.
And so having an incentive program and also encourages upward mobility.
Right.
Some of the younger folks may not recognize that now, but those that have a plan for their future will hopefully see, you know what, if I play my cards right and I work my way up the chain, I work my way up into this management scenario, but I also work my way up into an ownership scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's, sometimes we're very short-sighted in many cases. And it's nice to see employees that are willing to stick it out a little bit longer than, back in the day, it used to be 20 years with the same company for retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And now, it's...
Well, there's no retirement program. There's no pension program.
That's the other thing. That's changed quite a bit.
Yeah. We lose people to government jobs,
sure,
just because of that.
I absolutely 100%. That's the tough part. Is the government is a great organization to work for from a benefits and incentives point of view, because they take it the extra step. They really do in that sense. It's not without pain and suffering, but they take it the extra step.
Well, and they, and I just use this in a kind of heated discussion with one of our groups. Is, what you're doing, as I told them, directly affects the company's bottom line and your bottom line.
Surprise.
And your peers' bottom line. So, not doing or doing this incorrectly is costing you money.
Yeah.
It's costing
Did they
everybody.
get that?
Yeah, I think they did. Boy, it gets quiet when you remind them of that. And they own the majority. And I remind them that all the time. So y'all own 55%.
Wow.
So, you've got to,
start getting your shit together.
And we have a great organization. Don't get me wrong.
I know.
But every organization you're going to have a boo-boo. You're
gonna have issues. I mean, it's impossible to not be able. You can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. You're gonna have some issues. You're gonna have to just deal with that. And I think that's where that leadership and the ability to refocus everybody towards the common goal, common good, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've established yourself as a preeminent, law enforcement or first responder, because you also do so many other professions. Distributor, because I also remember the time when it was pretty much solely first responders, and then what was the decision to kind of open up to the private citizen market? What kind of thought process went into that?
Well, post 9/11, there was a change in the gun industry. It was really led by Glock. Where Glock says, you know what, this is an event. 9/11 was an event. we need to take care of not just extend this blue label program to law enforcement. We need to add all first responders and at that time it's active military and retired.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that, and that was kind of, the internet had been around a little bit.
I remember that, yeah.
And we looked at that. Okay, now Glock's sending, people who are no longer police officers or whatever, judges, flight deck officers,
wow,
all that. But they can also go online and buy everything in our store online.
Huh?
Why are we telling people not to come in here?
Yeah,
that's not smart.
Interesting.
And so we pretty much opened that. We had opened it up a little bit post 9/11, and we moved to our location near the Domain. We kept it closed there for maybe about 18 months.
Okay.
And realized this is stupid. Why are we doing this? And had to rethink our entire buying process of
that whole new market.
Start ordering commercial guns, commercial ammunition, more. I mean, and at the same time, the concealed carry revolution was going on
Big
at the
time.
same time. Late 90s, and we already had everything a concealed carry person. I mean, because cops carry plain clothes off duty.
Absolutely.
We already had everything, and we were, I'm not tooting my own horn, we were subject matter experts on concealed carry and things like that before
it was cool.
Yeah, because we were used to doing undercover guys and guys, off duty. You don't want to show.
Yeah.
You don't want to,
all the things that you do now.
Right. So that was really the impetus. Opening up the internet was the genie out of the bottle.
Big
really.
time. Holy cow.
Mailing catalogs, same thing. You don't know who you're mailing a catalog to.
That's true.
And we'd already, had some forays into some other weird stuff like pest control.
That is weird.
They all carry a flashlight.
Oh my, yeah.
ABC Pest Control here in Austin. We had a contest with our inside people. Who can sell the most streamlights? And so this guy, he had an idea. He had a buddy that worked for ABC. He said, "Can you get me in to see the owner?" And he did a presentation on his own time of how much the rechargeable flashlights were going to save them in money. They were brighter. They were that we can work on them, blah, blah, blah. Well, he sold 300 flashlights to ABC Pest Control. We actually did a flyer to Pest Control Market after that.
Oh my God, that's brilliant though. I mean, that's smart to think outside the box.
Bobby Jenkins, you see on the TV commercials for ABC, he was the guy on the cover of the Pest Control flyer. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's brilliant though. I love that. That's the type of that's the type of thinking that you really want to encourage in your culture.
Right.
Outside the box. Let's we've nailed down these markets. What's next? Where do we go next? So you open up to the general public, and how was that? How was the reception?
It was in some ways very negative from some of our law enforcement customers.
Yeah.
We had busted the club up.
Yep.
And there still will get that comment from time to time, but it's like, guys, you work for the public.
That's true too.
If you're not happy with the public being in here, maybe you should think about another profession.
Because that's your job. You're supposed to be working with the public.
And I get it. They want to, when sometimes they got to get away.
I get it too.
Yeah.
It's a nice place. It was a nice little like you said, club to come to. It's like our little private club. I get that. That is unfortunate that had get changed, or they opened it up to other members, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But how did the public take it?
We still have people that don't think we're open to the public. We advertise on Coke FM. I mean, we still don't.
It's a hard kind of like
perception to get past.
Yeah, it has. Because you guys were so dominant in the first responder field that there's just this natural inclination, especially for folks that are new to the industry. And we see, so many new gun owners that there is, and some of them are a little bit intimidated. Even coming into just a mom and pop stop or a mom and pop store. So coming into something that was the preeminent law enforcement center can probably.
Yeah, it hurts and it helps. It's a safe place.
Good point.
Yeah,
I cannot tell you how many times I've rolled up there and just so many different marked units out there from all different departments and sheriff's offices, and it's like where you're going. Like it's like this is the last place that anything bad is going to happen. Like, the absolute last place.
Right. And that kind of was a selling point to some of our locations in other states. Hey, we're going to have the cops here all the time.
That's a nice little welcoming kind of mat of sorts to lay out there.
Right.
There's look at all the marked units outside, look at all the uniform officers inside. That's good. So good and bad. Public is and I know that you are working on the marketing side to kind of get the word out. Your engagement within social media has definitely upped its game. You're definitely getting that animal, and that's a tricky animal to master too.
Yeah. We haven't done a really great job. I mean, we've done okay.
Yeah.
But our focus has been on our natural growth. In the government side of our business, to where, like I tell my people, we only have like 2 projects going on. Okay, if we get to 3 and 4. We're not going to get any of them done.
Yeah, that's true.
So we always have kind of a project we're working on. It can be very unsexy, but it's just a big thing we need to get done.
Yeah.
In the background. So
the now that you've opened your doors, and the doors have been open to the public for a while now, when do you think that actually happened?
I think it was about 2005.
Yeah, that seems about right. I want to think because I relocated back here in 2007. And I remember there was you had to get buzzed in back then, but that went away, became a lot more again open to the public and inviting to the public. What were some of the challenges outside of getting past perception? With you mentioned it's a different market. You have different. You need different products.
Well, we had internal pushback on, hey, we got to expand hours. We our hours are even expanded are lower than a normal gun store.
No way.
Because we're open 8:30 to 6 now, but opening from 5 to 6, it was the end of the world for our staff. It still had some family working for us at that time. They were total pushing back.
Oh, wow.
And then when we opened on Saturday, it was the end of the world. Yeah. Another end of the world. And we're not, I think we're kind of where we need to be now.
Yeah.
We still have people complain about our hours, but we use the hours that we have to hire people from other stores. Hey, you don't have to work Sunday. You get off at 4:00 on Saturday.
Yeah.
You
does make it nice.
And we're not open for Black Friday.
Yeah.
So, that's for people in the retail business.
Such a crazy day.
Yeah. So, they get Thanksgiving. They get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Nice.
So everybody gets a 4-day weekend. We're still very family oriented in that aspect.
That's nice.
We're not going to be open on Sundays. That's just a total non-starter. And
I agree with that. I mean, it's like like people will I remember Chick-fil-A. Every now and then gets kind of like beat up again for being closed on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but why? Why? Because you want something on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. You want to, and I've always admired that about them in other organizations that choose to be closed on Sunday. I think it's nice. It's not only refreshing, but it's a reminder that there should actually be a rest day. There should really be a rest day in our work week. We should have time off. So one of the things that you do that not a lot of people know about is that you are very strong with the trade-ins, your trade-ins and stuff. One of the other things and we're not just talking about your normal trade-ins, we're talking about some pretty exotic stuff. What are some of the coolest things that you've gotten in, and whether it's a department trade-in or whether it's a personal trade-in? What are some of the coolest things that have come through your desk? I've seen you've posted some pictures before, some really cool stuff. So
yeah, the gold AKs.
Yes.
Yeah, and Glock 18s, those are cool.
Yeah, they are. They're always going to be cool. Yeah.
We did the big trade in Puerto Rico where we brought back, I think it was 6,000 confiscated guns in a 40-foot container.
6,000 confiscated? Why were they confiscating? I can't remember what happened. What was
well, it was a mix. It was duty weapons.
Oh, right.
Quite a few duty weapons. And that's another story. You can convert a 5906 to full auto. We had to look for that. And the cops were doing it.
Oh, good Lord.
Over there, you have to have a permit to have a handgun.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you let your permit expire,
they take the gun.
The day after your permit expires, they're knocking on the door. Let me have your guns. You got whatever
period.
Year to get your license back in order, or that you just abandon them. And so they had, it was the craziest. I mean, boxes upon boxes.
They just were collected.
Colt detective. Can't talk. Colt detective specials.
Oh my God!
We must have got like 400.
Are you kidding?
No.
Oh my God!
It was
and
just,
those are so hard to find.
Oh yeah, there was, gold cups. It was just crazy.
Oh my God!
Because they have a fairly big shooting.
They do. Yeah.
Scene over there, and a lot of competition.
Yeah.
You got guys that are shooting competitively over there.
Yeah.
And it was primarily handguns. There was very few,
makes sense.
Rifles or shotguns, but it was primarily handguns. And that was an experience of we were loading the guns in the Sally port, and so every dirtbag in Puerto Rico was watching us wheel out.
Oh my God!
Just
thousands of guns
into this storage container. But we got it out. It made it. We had that whole side of our building was empty, and it just had thousands of guns spread out. We had to have APD work overnights,
just
because we had no security over there.
Oh my God, yeah.
So we had, 2 APD officers, overnight and 1 during the day.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's still so many, though. I mean, so many guns. So some of the other unique things that you do also that I don't think the general public is aware of is that you offer layaway plans for firearm purchases.
Yeah, it comes and goes. Until we find a better way to use it, we've kind of really quit pushing that.
Okay.
Because it just, I don't know. There was always a lot of problems.
Well, I can imagine it's never going to be easy to try to always to get I get that.
We're working on a financing program right now. Yeah.
Which is the next best thing, and I think that's the better way to go.
Right.
I mean, that's the evolution of layaway, basically. Right. I mean, financing it and getting it done in one swoop. And now there's so many options that are available, and I think that's kind of, and the reason why I bring that up is because other gun stores don't do that. They don't have. They didn't even have the forthright to go forward with a layaway plan, even if it was defective in its in its idea. So that to me is striking, because not everybody can afford even a lower tiered gun is still going to cost you several $100s. And being able to provide the public with a means to achieve that, especially with all the new gun owners that we have right now, I think is valuable. And I encourage the financing. I think the finance is smart. That's the wave of the future. We're even doing it for our training classes. So now, you can pay that off in increments and makes it a little bit easier, and it lowers a lot of barriers. And that's what I've always tried to do is pressure points. For me, what's a barrier to entry? What's keeping a student from coming to a class? Well, that initial sticker shock of a class course fee, and what can we do to kind of alleviate that? So we've started playing with the financing to make that happen. And it's like you said, it's not easy. It's going to take some time to work out all the bugs, but I think it's worth it in the end because ultimately we're in sort of the same business as far as the service industry is concerned, and we want to make sure that we can service as many people as possible. So that also kind of opens up some of the interesting time periods that we saw in the community, like the assault weapons ban when it's sunsetted, and then of course all of the current anti-gun agenda. How is the sunset? The AWB sunsetting. How was that from a gun store point of view?
Well, during that, I think Colt still had all the patents on the AR-15 at that point. There was really not, as that went into effect in '94, you didn't have 10 different players out there selling ARs. You had one.
Yeah.
And so, during the ban, you started seeing those people coming out.
Yeah.
And then when the ban ended, it was just a free for all.
I know.
There was so much pin up demand. But of course, there were people that had paid gazillions for
their Colts. I'm one of them. I had a couple of those. Oh man, they're like, I'm glad I have them because now they're just like nostalgia pieces for me from a time period. It reminds me of a time period of sorts. The pain that I went through to get those two. Like I can remember the very first one that I bought. I bought it from a Yavapai County Sheriff's deputy, and I treated that thing like it was gold because like you couldn't get them.
Right.
You couldn't get something reliable. This was a legitimate Colt. And, that thing was like, I took better care of that than I took care of my body.
And you took care of the magazines also.
Oh, that was the other thing. Like, I was like, how many of those are you willing to give me for this? He'd get me like, and I had some stockpile from the military of sorts. So, but like you said, those things were gold. And with something like an assault weapons ban and dealing with the aftermath, yeah, that was crazy, like from my point of view. So I can only imagine what it was like for you guys.
Yeah. I mean, that was we had, of course, there was a previous ammo shortage back in the early '90s. So, but nothing to compare to what we've seen. With Sandy Hook was a big play.
In what way?
I mean, just people. We thought that was the pinnacle run on guns. And then 2020 happened.
And every time we think that, something else happens. Keeps pushing the bar forward.
Right. Now, there's a lot of people are jaded right now, I think. Should I go ahead and, buy my AR?
Yeah.
I hadn't bought it the last couple of times. Should I buy it this time?
Yeah.
And, we just encourage people to don't buy it because you might not be able to buy it in the future. Buy it because it's fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, because I feel like like I know that there's a lot of people that are looking at buying a gun as a really difficult thing. There's emotion tied to it because they've been, maybe anti-gun, and now they're feeling the need with the craziness that we've seen in the last couple years that maybe they should buy a gun. So I get that. And I'm not talking to that crowd, that group of people, but the group of people that are curious, gun curious is what I kind of like to call it. And, like, okay, maybe I should buy this because I might not be able to get it. And that there might be a plausible, that you could have some good reasonings there, but the other thing too is like so many people just buy them and don't do anything with them. They just kind of sit in a drawer or safe, and they don't really take them out. And my encouragement to them is, number one, it's a sport. there is a lot of activities that you can do with your firearms. I mean, there's got to be something for you. You just got to look, and you may have to drive a little bit for it, but you're going to find something. And I think when you can get involved in the sport aspect of it, that's where you find the fun. And then you get the camaraderie that goes along with that. You get around a bunch of other like-minded people, and you just start to have fun, and then you start to do things, and you get, like you make friends for life in a sense. And it's like none of that would have happened if you hadn't just taken out and gone out and done stuff. And I do try to encourage people that there's a serious undertone. I'm not trying to downplay that, of course. We're using them to protect life. I get that. But there's also a lot of other things that we can do that still bring, fun, joy, excitement, play to it all, and to take advantage of that, because that I think is also a great way to bring more people into the industry, is to make it not entertaining is not the right word, but enjoyable.
Right.
Make it enjoyable for them. And I saw it when when I was at the range. I would see people come in and they were a little standoffish. They might have had maybe one or two experiences where they went out with family members, and maybe it was fun, maybe it wasn't fun for them. And they come in and they get a chance to shoot some guns that they've seen on TV or seen in the movies. And we used to call it the full auto smile. They turn around and they have that big smile from ear to ear, like, oh my God, this is so much fun. And then they realize kind of like why we enjoy it as much as we do. There's, there's always a serious tone to it, but there's that enjoyment factor. And I just loved always watching that. And, I'd almost be able to time it with my camera so I could catch that over the shoulder smile that they would have and see that it was so predictable almost.
Right. That was the fun thing. There was very few fun things about 2020, but
no.
One of the fun things was, getting somebody who was either not a gun owner, period, or what we saw a lot of, okay, guys in Texas, I've got my deer rifle and I got my dove shotgun, and I don't own anything else. And
That's true.
They're sitting around thinking in 2020, I've got my deer rifle and I've got my dove shotgun. If the zombie apocalypse happens, these are not ideal. These are not ideal. These are not ideal.
Yeah.
And maybe I ought to take defending my family seriously.
Interesting.
And maybe I ought to take, have another choice of rifle. And that's what we told most of them. Look, these things are fun.
Yeah.
Go out. You're a deer hunter. You got a lease. Go out and bang away with these things. Go buy you some steel targets. Go play.
It's so fun to see that change in attitude, that change in mindset, where now it's much more. And I see it a lot with transplants, folks that move from a very restrictive state to our state, and it's like, you mean I can actually own this? And I'm like, yeah, it's totally legal. Just follow the steps. It's not that hard. Okay, and they take it out for the first time, and like I've had some conversations with guys that after that first kind of like foray into it, now all of a sudden they've bought like 3 more, and now they're expanding out beyond handguns. Now it's rifles, and now they're looking at optics, and they just go all in. They're all in at that point. They're like, oh my God. And most of the time, the common response I get from them is like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
This is what I was missing. I was missing all of this for so long. And my words of encouragement to people that are particularly on the fence about it is to take a chance, and maybe even consider a little training education can't hurt. That's always a good thing. Always going to encourage that, but take a chance and maybe just go and rent something at first and see how that treats you, and maybe then go back and rent something else, and just make it a make it a like a progression. You don't have to jump in and go all in all at one time. Some people will do that, and good for them. But I'm always trying to find ways to bring more people into the community, and especially those that are on the fringes that are kind of looking in, but they're not entirely sure if they want to come in. I want to create a welcome environment for them. And I think, making it about fun and encouraging them to do it at their own pace and discover what we have discovered as lifelong advocates for firearm ownership. There's a lot of fun that goes into it. So you kind of hit it at 2020, the pain of 2020. What was the most painful thing about 2020 within the firearm industry?
It was the good and bad was a lot of customers that were coming in had never owned a gun before.
Yeah.
It's walking in and said, I need to buy a gun.
Yep.
Well, what kind of gun? I don't know. I just need a gun.
I need a gun.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you had the other customer that, they had the deer rifle and the dove shotgun.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what I need because I got a buddy.
Yeah.
But we were so stacked up on retail. I mean, our waits were 4 hours to buy a gun, and people were used to going in,
walking out.
Little bitty gun store. I mean, you're the only customer in there.
So true.
And so even when it was slow at our place, we're pounding out, 30, 40 gun transactions a day, and you have to look at the time.
Yeah,
because you're spending 45 minutes to make that happen. Because they're asking you questions. Well, what kind of ammo should I buy? What kind of holster should I get? Should I get?
It's an investment,
right,
on your part,
right? And okay, I need somewhere to keep it. I need a tactical light to go on it. And we would have somebody come in. It's just doing a transfer.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Why do I have to wait in line?"
Oh my gosh!
And I'm going, dude, you didn't even buy the gun from us. We got in like 500 guns today. Yours is at the bottom of the list. What we're going to get received in.
Oh my God!
And not trying to be a jerk about it, but you're just doing a transfer.
Yeah.
You don't go the front of the line.
Yeah.
This person goes the front of the line. We're taking care of this lady.
Yeah.
And her husband who've never owned a gun before.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make it an enjoyable experience for them. They're already intimidated when they walked in the door.
That. Yes.
They're already intimidated. We try to be not that gun store.
Yeah.
I do not tolerate. Our management does not tolerate the know-it-all gun guy or grumpy gun guy.
Yes.
That you run into. That's so set in their ways, and they perpetuate these myths. Industry myths, gun myths that things have changed.
So true, and I'm happy to hear that. I really am, because the point to that is that you've created a welcome environment for somebody that is, again, at their wits' end. They're making it's an emotional thing for them to even walk into the store, because all their life they've been pushing back against it. And for whatever reason, they've come to the decision that now is the time that I've got to do it. So there's a lot of baggage that they're bringing in, and creating that welcome environment where they can have dialogue, that they don't feel like they're being talked down to. They don't feel like they're being that there's not a condescending tone or anything like that, is huge. And that's a valuable thing that, I hope other gun stores take on.
Right. And we try to be non-political also. And because I've had that conversation with a couple of friends of mine. They're Democrats. They're liberal Democrats, but guess what?
They're gun owners.
They're gun owners because they are realistic.
Yeah.
And but they don't want to come in someplace and get trash talk.
It's not,
it's not doing anybody any good.
Couldn't agree more.
They are on the other side, but you got to think they also think the way we do, and it helps having some friends or some friendly enemies.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. Friendly enemies.
Yeah.
The way I look at that is, I think there is a lot of Democrats that are forced to toe a party line.
You're absolutely correct.
And given, like I was saying, when I had folks that moved out of states, that moved into freer states, and they no longer were living under that yoke of sorts, they flourished. They absolutely flourished and enjoyed the process, right? I feel the same way with a lot of Democrats. They're in a pickle of sorts. They have to toe the party line, and that means they kind of are always going to be the bad guy. But many of them, like, this is the point that I try to make, is that I'm never going to concede our firearm rights, but I'm willing to have conversations. I'm willing to listen to viewpoints. I'm willing to kind of get your take on things. And I always try to tell, my job is to stand by my convictions, but I'm not doing that blindly. I'm doing it because I've researched, I've thought it through, I've come to a logical decision about why I have these viewpoints. Your job is to help illustrate maybe some things that I didn't think about in coming up with my viewpoints. And if you do come up with some valuable insight that I hadn't thought about that changes my viewpoints, then that's a win for me. You know, I want to have that kind of conversation with people more regularly. And it's unfortunate that it just doesn't happen.
Well, you know, there was a real good article on CNN a few days ago about the new face of gun ownership.
Oh, interesting.
And it was, you know, both they were keying in. There was a group of African-American ladies going to the range to get their first experience, and you know, they're going to all go to a concealed carry course. And then you had members of, you know, the gay community that were coming in there. And we've seen that same thing. And, you know, at NSSF a few years ago, they actually had a meeting here in Austin we went to. And that was a big focus of that meeting is going after the non-traditional gun owner. You know, it's not all just old white guys.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what religious preference or
couldn't agree more.
Relationship preference. You know, people come to realize, hey, this is my family. No matter what non-traditional family, this is my family.
Yep.
This is my community, and I should be a positive force, you know, in protection. And that's, I didn't carry a gun for a long time. I've been in the business.
Yeah.
I didn't start carrying a gun until about 15 years ago.
Wow.
And finally, one of my friends, he said, "You have concealed carry?" No. He lit me up.
Oh, did he?
He came in my office. He said, "I want to come down there and talk to you."
Oh, boy.
And he goes, "You got girls, right?
Oh, yeah.
You got a wife. You know, you got family. You need to get your act together."
Nice.
Yeah.
It's so true, though. I mean, I can remember growing up, and it was a different time. And, you know, we have to accept that we are living in different times now. And it's not right or wrong. It is what it is. We live in different times. And failing to accept that puts not just you at risk, but everybody that you are responsible for at risk. And so, you know, you see that kind of mindset shift dramatically with moms, women that have children. That maternal instinct kicks in, and they recognize that a firearm is one of their best choices at helping to protect their family. And the conversations that I've had with many of them all stemmed from the fact that they didn't want to carry or be responsible for a firearm. But they also recognize that if they don't do it, who's going to do it? You know, they either were single moms, or they were, you know, divorcees, or they were, you know, in that realm where they didn't have a male counterpart to assist them in that process. And so it became this kind of like revelation to many of them that it's me. Right. I'm it.
Yeah.
And I think that when that revelation occurs, it can be a little scary and intimidating, but I also think it can be very empowering. And I feel like more and more of them are becoming are acknowledging that, and it's great to see that. And you know what I'm always going to be of the mindset that welcome everybody. And I don't have any. I try very hard to be as open and welcoming to people that want to come into this community. Maybe it's not for you, but you're not going to know that until you actually put the effort into finding out. And if you find out, okay, you know what? Still feel pretty strongly about this. I'm going to back out. Totally fine with that. Respect that without 100%. But it's also so interesting to see the changes that happen. And being a part of that has been great. So many students who have come to a class for the very first time it's not every student that does this, but I get several of them that will pull me aside, during class and just have these comments that they make. Like I never thought that I would be responsible, like I would have to take responsibility for protecting my family. But now that I have a higher sense of appreciation for that and what it takes to get there. So, the firearms community is fraught with attack from a lot of different organizations. And, it's always going to be that way. We're never going to get out of that.
Right.
I think the best course of action for us as an industry is to continue to increase our numbers, continue to increase the people that are interested in firearms so that we can collectively push the iceberg, kind of move the iceberg a little bit. One person pushing the iceberg is not easy, but you get 100,000 moving it, and it's a lot easier. Having been in the industry for as long as you have and seen things kind of come and go, with the ammo shortages, how bad was the ammo shortages?
It's still bad.
Okay. Fair enough.
You're starting to see, I guess, Winchester's doing some rebates. They started last week. But the ammo that we are seeing coming in now, we ordered 12 to 15 months ago.
That's crazy.
And we totally, Vista just flat out told us, we support a lot of charity shotgun tournaments. And we've always tried to take care, offer it to them at cost or pretty close. And I couldn't get ammo for any of the charities because Vista said, okay, all the shot shells, non-buckshot and slug, are going commercial. And remind me, let's bring up the difference between commercial and LE.
I love that.
To have that conversation. But they said, all shot shells are going commercial for the entire 2022. Oof. So we had to buy a container, or we ordered a container from, I guess it's Spain. Yeah, Spain, of shot shells, because that still remains a problem. The game warden shoot, Operation Game Thief, is a big shoot. They have several of them statewide. Had to bring your own shells.
Oh my gosh!
Now, I've never been to a charity event
where you have to bring your stuff.
Bring your own shells, just because it's the game wards.
It's part of the fun.
They couldn't get them.
So we're starting and I guess there is so much conjecture, confusion, misleading information about the ammo shortage. But we kind of know what started it, but what kept it going for so long?
Well, it's like the snowball rolling down the mountainside.
Yeah.
It gets worse. People panic even more.
Mm-hmm.
It continues to get worse. So it went into a feeding frenzy.
My God.
But post Sandy Hook, we saw it kind of start.
Yeah.
And that's where, my wife's brother-in-law was the guy that, okay, we're going to the range. We'll stop at the gun store and buy some ammo on the way to the range. He never had any, love the guy, but that's just not, he didn't really have a thought about that. I said, man, I've seen this go bad, so you need to have a year's worth.
Yeah.
And because he got into, some self-defense training.
Good for him.
With my sister-in-law. And we shoot a lot of sporting clays. And so finally I just said, Dave, I'm sending 15 cases of shotgun shells to your house. Because, we wasted, last Christmas, we wasted an hour and a half trying to find shotgun shells.
Oh, my goodness.
So But just think about that. There's a couple of 100,000 Daves out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That only bought ammo when they were going to the range.
Yeah.
Each one of those guys goes out and buys a case of shotgun shells, a few boxes of 9, a few boxes of 22. Well, he wouldn't buy that in 5 years. But all of a sudden, now he's buying it because he knows he needs to.
Yeah.
You multiply that times a couple 100,000, maybe $1 million. Just think how many new gun owners in 2020?
Yeah, it's a crazy number. I can't even they're not even sure. They're
It's
just
in the
guessing.
millions.
Yeah,
each one of them bought 1 or 2 boxes of ammo.
I know.
That demand did not exist
Prior to that,
and you had also supply chain issues at the manufacturers. They ran out of plastic. Well, what does that have? Well, the trays to put the bullets in.
Yeah. Oh my God.
They ran out of boxes because they don't make their own boxes.
Yeah.
The cardboard manufacturer couldn't keep up with their
demand.
The cases.
Yeah. So if you were to, let's just say hypothetically, we might see another ammo shortage in the future. What are you suggesting that a year supply is like a decent load, or
that's probably a minimum?
Yeah. I like where your head's at, Jim.
and if you own weird calibers, you need to stack. Need to stack them up because you had that problem.
Big
I remember
time.
a couple of emails from you.
I was like, please, I need something. It was my 6.8 SPC for sure.
Yeah, and so. And that's what happens. Vista's not making that.
Yeah.
Why would they make it when they can load as much 308 and 223 as their machines can load without if you've ever been to ammo plant, it's very complicated changing that giant machine to load not just a different caliber, but even changing the grain weight.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Oh, it's
the machine's down for days.
Yeah. I saw that happen at a lower scale. I saw a small. They became a pretty decent manufacturer after like 4 or 5 years. But when I saw their first factory and saw how it all worked, I was impressed. Number one, because of the technology that was required to make that all work. But I was also like, wow, one little thing, and this whole plant shuts down. So. Like at least a year's supply. If you're looking at the oddball like me calibers, you definitely want to plan that one ahead. And I learned a lesson. I'm not going to lie. That bit me in the butt. I missed out on 2 trips because I just didn't have enough to get everything zeroed and then get ready to go. I mean, I had like what I consider to be my, like you see in the movies all the time, the fuel gauge. Don't go below this unless it's war.
Mm-hmm.
I had that war loadout, but that was all I had. And I wasn't going to go into that just for not recreational, but other things,
Mm-hmm.
So I got bit in the butt on that, and as such, I've kind of changed my kind of loadout a little bit. So I went back to the staples. 7.62, 308 was something that I hadn't really had. I didn't feel like I had a need for it until an ammo shortage, and then I'm like, okay. I need something that's going to help me put down the game that I want for my table.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed. So I did change my viewpoint on that. So, and I think the other thing that is helpful is, I think what I hope the message is to people is not, hey, it's not because I'm not encouraging you to go out and buy ammo for the sake of buying ammo. What I'm trying to get you to realize is that if you have a surplus of ammo in your possession, in your home, wherever it is, you're far less likely to feel that panic. And then if you're far less likely to feel that panic, there's less panic in general and less panic buying. Because I do think that, I mean, we saw it. Nobody could still explain to me why we saw the run on toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
Why was it so crazy? And it's because the best explanation that I've heard is that it became like a wildfire, and it just grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew.
Same thing on the ammo.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing.
So
and you had people, buying it and reselling it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's always going to be folks that do
Yeah.
that. I understand that. That's a part of the. It's part of the. But hopefully now they have less of a market to sell to because now hopefully people are more educated to prepare for this type of thing. And folks, what I'm not saying that you need to go all out prepper mode, but thinking about this from a perspective, and I've found value in keeping a stockpile. That's reasonable. It's not crazy. It's just reasonable. Like you said, it's probably, but I shoot a lot more than the average person. So when I have a year's supply, it's like maybe 3 or 4 years for the average person. But I shoot a lot. And so I try to keep that going because I did feel like I did feel a little trepidation about digging into my supplies during that pandemic just so that I can maintain my skill. Like that was an important skill that I maintained was my firearm skills. And like about 3 or 4 months into it, I was like, nah, screw it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to start training. I'm going to keep my training routine going the way it is. Maybe tone it down a little bit, but I'm going to still train.
Right. And once you get your little stockpile, whatever it is, you shoot 2 boxes, buy 2 boxes.
Easy. It's
you just
easy
keep
at that point.
replacing it.
It's so easy.
You just keep replacing it as you shoot it. And that way you don't have that panic of, gosh, I got this invite out of the blue to go to Colorado and shoot an elk.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got an elk rifle, but I got no ammo.
Yeah, yep. I know exactly how that goes. It's also funny because I do that with my barbecue sauce. Once it gets to a little level, I never want to be without barbecue sauce in the house. So once it gets to that level, boom, another one goes in the shopping cart to bring home, just to replace it, just to stand by to replace it. Never want to be without barbecue sauce in the house. So that's the lesson. Never be without ammo or barbecue sauce.
That's right. Or Topo Chico.
That's true. That's another logistical issue that we've run into that we were just talking about before the show. It's like, my God, it's so hard to find. The interesting thing about it is that we're seeing it in because it was originally kind of like a local thing, and then it started to build in popularity, and now we see it everywhere. So good for you guys, but damn, I hate having to wait for it now. We're like having to stock up on it. Let's get back to some of the business stuff real quick. What was the best advice that you were given by a mentor or a leader?
It's hard to which one is the best?
Oh, man.
Gosh, it's probably on the HR sides of things.
Good. What you got?
Just, treating the employees as a team. They're not employees anymore. They're part of the team.
Yeah.
And seeing that at successful companies.
Yeah.
I mentioned Galls earlier.
Yeah.
There was another one of my mentors, a guy named Clayton Smith from Tuxall Uniforms. His son was one of the founders of Magpul.
No way.
Yeah.
Huh. Smith?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I know who you might be talking about.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I actually got invited out to Magpul when they were doing some, exploration, doing clothing.
Yeah.
NDA. I'm going, I know your dad. He goes, I was wondering when you were going to bring that up.
I love it.
And I said, I made many calls to your dad.
Oh, my God.
So I really respected him.
Oh, my God.
And, ask him different pieces of business advice or whatever.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have mentors. The thing that I learned from the military was, number one, I don't know everything. And number two, there's a lot of people that have more experience than me that do and are willing to share it with me. And that's how we continue to, we pass that knowledge from one to the next. So,
well, I got thrown into this business at a very early age. I'm 23 years old. I mean, that's, I can't imagine how I did it. And I did a lot of stupid stuff.
We all do.
But getting thrown into it at that young of an age, and it was very helpful to have, literally on a Rolodex, all these people in the industry. I could pick up the phone and say, "Hey, how do you deal with this?"
It's so funny. I love hearing that because, the training industry recently has had, we've had a lot of losses recently, like within the training industry. And, it's prompted me to stay in better contact with my friends, my peers. And I was just talking to one, and we were just talking about like, well, wait, how are you doing this now? Are you still doing it like this? And it was just good to have that kind of conversation. And like, yeah, it's nice. I bounce ideas off of them. They bounce ideas off me. We have that nice kind of back and forth thing, and they'll tell me, yeah, that's stupid. Don't do that. That's dumb. Or my favorite is like, yeah, dude, I already did that. It was bad. Don't do that. Kind of thing. So I love having, mentors or soundboards, whatever you want to call them, that you can bounce ideas off of. I think that's a great thing. So being in business for as long as you have, you have tackled, or you have been faced with failures. Mm-hmm. What did you find to be the best way at dealing with those failures? Like, was there a process that you had, or a trend that you...
First is just admitting you have a failure. And getting through that part is...
Oh, I love it.
This was a dumb idea. And I'm not going to fix it by keep pounding on it. I've just got to, I got to shift gears and move a different direction. This is not smart.
I love it. So being able to acknowledge the failure in the first place.
Yeah. And then, mitigating the damages to the company or to the employee.
Nice.
Maybe you failed an employee, because that happens.
Yeah.
You don't get what they do is for a reason. And you've got to be able to, think, have some empathy for their end.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And I'm a different animal because this is my business. Mm-hmm. This is not their business. Mm-hmm. Now, we've made it part of their business a little bit. Some of them get it, some of them don't. But, I wake up at night, at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, gosh, I should have done. I've got to get this done.
So many times, yeah.
I've got to get this done. And my poor wife, who works, I might add, 3 times harder at GT than I do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm semi-retired.
I gotcha.
Okay.
I gotcha.
And so she's still our CFO and
oh, wow. Yeah.
Wearing that hat and part of the HR hat.
Nice.
And
that is a lot of responsibility.
She's putting in 60 hours a week. I'm maybe 30.
So literally twice as much.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, we're going to start wrapping things up. I got one final question for you. What is the biggest takeaway you want our audience to take or to learn from today?
Well, being a customer-friendly environment, be it as we're wearing our gun shop hat, being it where we're wearing our law enforcement supply hat or our public safety hat, treating everybody well goes a long way. Life's too short.
Oh, man.
Life is way too short to have adversarial relationships with other people. If that person doesn't need to be in your life, just move on.
Yeah.
Don't hold a grudge. Just
move on.
Move on. And same thing with the employees. Some employees, it's better that they work somewhere else. You can't save everybody. We try to.
Yeah. I feel that. I do, and I like that. That's a great way to think about things. Life is too short. You can't really take on too much. If you do, you're just you're filling space up that you can be focusing on other stuff if you do that. So letting things go and taking the time that you have and making it as valuable as you possibly can. I think that's a great one. Where can people learn more about GT Distributors?
Well, on our website, just a brief biography of where we started and where we are now.
Okay.
We're 160 something employees now.
Wow.
And that's really the best way to learn about us.
Well, let me rephrase the question.
Go ahead.
Where can they go to purchase stuff from GT?
Oh, okay. Well, they can go to our website.
There we go.
There we go. It's GTDIST.com.
Oh, nice.
Okay. And one of our 5 locations, we're in Jacksonville, Florida, actually Orange Park.
How did that fare?
It's been pretty good. We're right down from the Naval Air Station.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a lot of Marines and
Nice.
and sailors coming in, young guys with money to spend.
Well, I just meant like from the hurricane and stuff.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they had some flooding. They lost power.
Okay.
Good. You know that's they we kind of assume that's going to happen out there. So they've got pre-cut plywood.
Everything's ready.
They can button it up in an hour.
Wow. Nice.
Because everything's numbered and labeled, and they just get the cordless drill out and they're done.
Not their first rodeo.
Sandbag it and out the door.
Not their first rodeo.
No.
All right, so
all Florida people.
Jacksonville. Where else?
Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Love it.
On the line.
Nice.
In the hood. I can say that because that's where I grew up.
Oh, nice.
And Kansas City, actually Overland Park.
Okay.
Which is the home for, I think, Bushnell's headquartered there.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Garmin also. And then Dallas. We're actually in Dallas.
Nice.
Austin, of course.
Yes. And you've got the new store here in Austin.
Yeah, the new store.
Yeah. Where's that at?
Pflugerville, right off of Toll Road 45, in between 45, on 45, in between 130 and 35, the freeway.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's think. Social media. You guys on social media as well?
Yeah, we do. We do Facebook, a little bit of Instagram.
Nice.
Most of our posts, of course, on Facebook, hit Instagram and Twitter.
Nice.
So our focus has been on really Facebook and Instagram.
Nice. It is valuable. There's a lot of people that interact and find things through social media, so it's smart to be involved in that medium. All right, folks. Well, that's a wrap. I want to thank you, Jim, for coming on the show. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to the men and women holding the line. You can check out all our previous podcasts by visiting thebulletproofworkshop.com. You can learn more about me and training opportunities by visiting tridentconcepts.com. Until then, I'm Jeff Gonzalez, and you're listening to the Bulletproof Podcast. Take care and stay safe.